Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment is officially out in the wild, taking us back in time with our girl Zelda in what serves as a prequel to the story of Tears of the Kingdom, and a follow-up to the sleeper hit Age of Calamity from 2020. You might already know that the game supports 2-player local co-op, both split screen and through GameShare, but what you might not know is that it actually has a form of online co-op too. Yes, this one is a little bit weird. I played through about a third of the game yesterday and ran into plenty of those signature Nintendo oddities, so while this is still a how-to on playing with your friends, I'm also adding a quick impression section at the end so you know whether this is really worth your time and your best friends. As always, check the timestamp, so jump where you need to go, and let's get into it. To join friends in Age of Imprisonment, you'll first need to get through a pretty lengthy tutorial section. It runs about 45 minutes, and once you finish, you'll see the option for 2-player mode. But here's the catch. If you turn on 2-player mode and try to start the very first mission, you'll get a little psych message saying it can't be played in co-op. Red flag number 1, by the way. You'll have to play through that mission solo as well, and then you'll finally unlock 2-player mode, but for real this time. To get started, press the left pad on your controller to open the multiplayer menu. You're going to see 3 options here. First, we'll go through split screen. This is the most straightforward one. This lets 2 players play on the same console in horizontal split screen. Once you select it, sync up a second controller, and you're good to go. Next, we'll go over GameShare for local play. This new feature on Switch 2 lets you skip split screen entirely by having the second player use another Switch console, either a Switch 1 or a Switch 2. Keep in mind, only player 1 needs to own the game for this to work. When you select this option, your system sends out a local signal. On the second console, make sure the system is up to date, then open the GameShare menu and follow the prompts. Boom, before you know it, you're playing together, no split screen required, though you will get these weird black bars on both screens for some reason. Red flag number 2, but we'll talk about that later. The third option is GameShare via GameChat. This one is essentially online co-op. Again, keep in mind, only player 1 needs to own the game for this to work. You'll both need Switch 2 systems and a Nintendo Online membership to use GameChat. Once you and your friend are in a GameChat group, player 1 selects GameShare via GameChat option, which sends an invite to player 2. Just follow the prompts and then you are playing online co-op. Just like before though, you'll still have those black bars on screen, and no, you cannot remove them. Also, since this works a lot like Steam's Remote Play, the quality depends entirely on your peer-to-peer connection and internet stability. Essentially, player 2 is streaming the game from player 1. For us, it was solid and we didn't really have any issues. Alright, that is how you team up with your friends, so let's keep moving. Now, of course, keep in mind, we are by no means Digital Foundry. We are doing this section because no one else has broken down all 4 ways to play and how each performs. I'm going to do my best to give you an idea of how the game runs at different levels, but this is all just basically based off of the eye test. Let's go from best to worst quality. In single player mode, you're obviously going to get the smoothest experience, a rock solid 60 frames per second with only the occasional hiccup. Next up is split screen, which runs at a steady 30 frames per second. I honestly think this still looks great and feels very playable. Third best would be local GameShare, where it seems that it's still actually hitting around 60 FPS, but with a slightly lower resolution overall. And finally, the lowest quality option is GameShare via GameChat, which makes sense since it's running online. We both notice a bit of a resolution dip and frame rate drop. If I had to guess, it's probably hovering around that 30 FPS, though that is just the old eye test. That said, all options feel totally playable and nothing like the performance mess that Age of Calamity launched with, so I wouldn't worry about that being a deal breaker here. Shared progression is pretty simple. Since only player 1 owns a copy, all saved data lives on their system. You don't have to worry about losing progress as player 2. Any character level ups or gear you earned or upgrade are saved to that same file, so everything is still going to be there when you hop back in next time. Okay, player agency is a big one. The game is divided into playable missions and then smaller menu-based systems that you can tinker with. In the menus, player 1 has full control while player 2 can't interact at all. It's not a huge part of the experience, so it's not a big deal, but it is worth noting. Once you're in battle, both players actually have impressively equal control. Neither is locked to a specific character. Both can freely switch between any of the playable heroes given what's available in the battle. You can both access the inventory, pause the game, game and use all the same abilities. However, remember that red flag from earlier, the pop-up saying a mission or segment is only playable in single-player mode. Yes, that is a major problem. For context, I played through 8 story missions, which amounts to about 2 chapters of the game or roughly a third of the experience. And I saw that pop up 4 times. 3 of those were entire missions that could not be played in co-op, and 1 was a segment within a mission. That's not even counting the tutorial, which, as we noted, is also solo only. There is no warning or indication ahead of time that a mission will be locked to single player. You're just going to get that message either before you start or even mid-progress and have to swap to solo play. Alright, so let's wrap things up with some quick impressions to help you figure out if this is a game for you and your best friends. From everything you've seen so far, it probably won't surprise you when I say this. I would strongly suggest thinking twice before picking this up if your main goal is to play it entirely in co-op. While it runs way smoother than Age of Calamity, that game was basically fully drop-in, drop-out co-op outside of a short 20-minute tutorial. Age of Imprisonment, on the other hand, feels like anything but that. I could not believe how long it took before I was even allowed to play with someone else, and then to be told multiple times that missions weren't playable in co-op, that's a huge letdown. The first couple of times I figured maybe they were still tutorial missions. The third time I thought, okay, maybe it's just a special mission with only 1 playable character, but by the 4th time, when it was a major story moment, the first true boss fight, and I had 3 playable heroes available to me, and it still said single player only, yeah, that is just wild and really sad to see. Maybe for some reason this stops happening later, but considering I'm already about a third of the way through the campaign, I seriously doubt it. Now, to give credit where it's due, when you can play together, the combat and performance are fantastic. It's everything I could have wanted in a sequel to Calamity, a game that I really loved. Even the weird black bars during GameShare or GameChat sessions aren't necessarily deal breakers. I'm mostly just happy those features even exist at all, even if they're tangled up in some very Nintendo decisions. But overall, these early co-op impressions are a major letdown. If you're buying Age of Imprisonment specifically to play on the couch or online with a friend, I'd say proceed with caution. Alright guys, that is all from me. This was such a weird experience playing through this last night, discovering that there was basically an online mode that they didn't advertise for, discovering that the game is anything but a drop-in, drop-out co-op experience. Yeah, it was just classic Nintendo and very disappointing. The game itself is great, but the co-op implementation is not. So hopefully I helped you figure out if this is for you and your best friends. If I did, like the video, share it with a friend, consider subscribing for more co-op content. And as always, thank you so much to our patrons for supporting us. We have plenty of more content coming out in November, so we will see you all on the next episode of the Co-op Bros.